Fairfax is an actionable consumer and political insights company. Next slide, please. So the team, we've recently updated it. It's myself, John Fuse, 25 years as an intellectual property attorney, top IP strategy person, former board of director of a public company. We brought on Jennifer Watkins to head up tech. She is former Los Alamos and is a published author on the use of prediction markets for aggregate collective intelligence. We also have Adam Hesch, former Navy, former Facebook, and Defense Digital Service. Next slide, please. So we are in the global markets research industry, which is a $73 billion industry. The US roughly represents 54% of that. Next slide, please. So what are we? Current research tools really limit the available insights, right, and their effectiveness. It's a streetlight fallacy. Current research looks where it can, not where it needs to be. So you're talking about things like surveys, focus groups, facial recognition, customer experience, social listening. If you're using any of those tools, it's time to stop. I have something better, faster, and less expensive for you. Next slide, please. We enable existing data. Right, we discover the unknown unknowns. We do that with 4 products: our nudge lists, dynamic demographic analysis, our industry emotion index, and our implicit delta testing. We answer the what, who, when, and by how much. Next slide, please. So where's our technology from? It was born out of the hunt for Russian propaganda. We went left of bang by 4 to 5 months. This is technology that is faster than the Russian SVR system that's used by the GRU. It is currently available for use by DoD. The commercial version is essentially a dumbed down version. Next slide, please. So how does this all work? How do we discover the unknowns to amplify? So we start with a new source of data. We're not social listening. We're not surveys. We have a patent pending system that's only available to Verifix and its clients. We use an ethical data source. We use paid anonymous consenting data. We can do it with small 100-person panels, even with 1% response rates. We can operate in small locations of 10,000 people or more. It's a closed loop system that is also not public. Next slide, please. With that data, what can we do? Our first product, the what. What will trigger people to buy my product or vote for my candidate? Next slide. That is the nudge lists. These are the issues that, if amplified, move your customer base. These are tested issues. We know they work. They come out automatically from the software. This is not consulting. You may have heard Qualtrics, SCL, Palantir, some of the other entities trying to tell you that they can find out what will move people, and they do with months of consulting. We do it weekly with software. Next slide, please. We answer the who. What is the demographic for the easiest attainable new market share? Next slide, please. So this is our dynamic demographic analysis. We call it the DDA. It's equivalent to a Cambridge target audience analysis. We can identify, using some additional screener data, the demographic profile of the group that's sitting right outside your issue. The group that, if moved, will make a difference, whether it's with new market share or it's convincing the population to adopt your line of thinking. Next slide, please. We answer the when. This is a great one. Is now a good time to launch a campaign? Do I spend money on ads? Do I send my product out? Next slide, please. So this is our weekly industry emotion index. It's a set of 10 questions that we track weekly. The data is available weekly, that shows you how people are feeling about an industry issue. With it, you can then time your actions accordingly. Next slide, please. Then we also answer the by how much. What impact will issue X have on a consumer's emotional reaction to my product? Next slide, please. That is our implicit delta testing. 99% of what you currently see in terms of AI is correlation. It is not causation. This is the first time we are moving to issue, emotion, causation, which we can test, quantify, and repeat. When we repeat our testing twice, we know we have positive issue, emotion, causation. We know what issue will move a population and by how much. Next slide, please. It's really additive data. It's always on. It's always available. We collect data weekly. The data can be used for product development. It's currently being used by another startup to help optimize and show efficacy of their product. We feed into strategy and creative on the ad side. That's where it's hot right now because of Apple's move on privacy, as well as Google's move to get rid of personal targeted ads, as well as the new EU regulations on AI. It also can be used for active management of your ad space. Next slide, please. So the data gets delivered either by dashboard or report or directly into your system through an API. It can be implemented automatically. No human is actually needed. This is essentially your behavioral science team in a box. Next slide, please.
30-second warning.
Our products, we have subscription-based, bespoke, and our enterprise SaaS. We've been mainly using bespoke to date. Subscription is what we are just coming out with. We'll be introducing in 3 weeks. Next slide, please. SaaS efficiency, it is purely software. We basically turn a profit at $5,000 per subscription. Our cost to collect data is roughly $3,400 a month. Next slide, please. People love us. Next slide, please. We have traction. We started with Nike as our first client. We've worked for Starcom, James Hardy, as well as the Air Force. We've been revenue positive since day one. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So our ask, we're looking for a 2-part raise. We're looking for a $500,000 safe to help with the subscription launch and a test that we're doing with a major social media company to prove efficacy of the product on their platform. Following 5 subscriptions, we'll be looking for a phase 2 of the raise. We're also, in terms of DoD partners, looking for additional engagements with Solic. And that is it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. Any questions for John from Verifix?
John, can you get your data from large public sources, or do you need someone to provide the data for you? In other words, I'm curious where the data comes from, where you do the sentiment analysis from. In other words, there's a lot of big data out there. Where's the source?
The source is that front-end collection tool. We have to collect the data. The data, when it's collected by us, we can then process it. So it's traditional, big data, social listening, et cetera. The data that's available, the error rates are too high to do the type of calculations and predictive things that we're doing. So it's self-collected data. The glory is that it's quicker and faster and a lower, it's less effort to do. So a survey, if you wanted to do a survey inside DoD and you're sending it out to everyone, you're talking about thousands and thousands of people, we can do that same work basically by just bugging 100 people. So it's a much lower, lighter lift. Based on how we get that data, we can then do more things with it. So we own the collection, we own the method, and we own the data, which we then can repurpose on the commercial side for other uses.
Cool, thanks.
So is it the data collection? It's a manual effort?
No, it's all software. So what happened? The 100-person panel will receive 10 questions, which they will have to enter a forecast and a text entry every week on the same day for 4 consecutive weeks. From that data, we're able then to do our calculations and provide those products. Each one of those 100-person panel members are paid. That's our major expense. So that $3,400 you saw, that's our data cost. That's because we're paying people for that data. Inside the military, if we're running it in an HR application, there is no cost.